Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Valhalla's Paranormal podcast. Today, you have myself, Walter, and Doris Lausell. We're going to be interviewing Mr. Abe Sias, and we hope you guys enjoy the show. So, without further ado, let's go to our intro.
Sit down, strap up, and shut up. Enjoy the ride. We cannot guarantee your safety or your sanity. Enjoy this story. But remember, you'll never get to your destination.
Welcome, everybody. On tonight's show, we are interviewing Mr. Abe Sias. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing well, brother. Uh, just finished eating supper, but I'm doing great. I seen your podcast with Joe the other day. It was pretty interesting. You talked about all kinds of things, especially when you're out there in the woods. You know, you run into all kinds of things.
Right.
I remember one time I was out there. I used to go walking at nighttime, and I would walk around this location where it was just a big old block, and there's woods, and there's this place called Embark, but there's nothing around, and as I was walking, something crossed my path, and it was a wildcat, and the
Oh,
wildcat's looking
shoot.
at me, and I'm looking at the wildcat. We're like a couple of feet apart, and he starts making this weird noise, and I start backing up, and it comes at me, and it's charging at me, and this is nighttime, and I'm walking
When
around
was
the
this?
fence trying to go to the light, and he's coming at me, and like literally running at me, and till I get to the light, and I had a little knife, but man, the little knife ain't gonna do nothing against no wildcat that move fast. So I pull out the little knife, and I said, well, if it jumps me, it's gonna scratch me, I'm gonna get hurt, but I'm gonna try to catch her with a knife that I had. But luckily, it didn't attack me, but it was a close call.
When was
And that's
this?
what I wasn't even in the woods. I wasn't even inside the woods. I was just doing I was walking at nighttime, just doing my regular exercise that I do at nighttime because it's fresher. But when I heard that I encountered with was it a possum or raccoon that y'all had, that sometimes the critters come out and you don't know what
Oh,
it might be.
possums. Possums,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I had encounter with that wildcat, and when that happened to me, it's like all the activity, kind of like what I would do at nighttime. The walking stopped. I stopped. I started walking during the day, and then I started carrying a stick with me or something with me,
You were
just
just
in case.
hiking?
Yeah, I was just doing the quad. I would do 10 laps a night just for exercise. It's a couple of miles, and then I go home and relax just to stay active.
Hmm.
But it just happened that way. You don't know what you're going to run into when you're out there in the. I wasn't even in the woods. I was in the outskirts of the woods, but there's a lot of wild animals out there. You have to really be prepared to what you run into. And me, I ran into a wildcat. I was just lucky that it didn't attack me.
Wow, a wildcat. I don't know how it would handle that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I know that they sense fear, and the more I backed up, the more it came up charging at me. It take like three long steps towards me, and I was trying to get the gap in between us, but he was trying to come at me, but luckily nothing happened, you know.
I'm glad. Well, how do you notice that you were being followed by this cat?
Well, we crossed paths as I'm walking. He came out of the wool line, and we crossed paths right in front of us.
Oh
Like,
my god! So it was kind of a stare off moment, both of
yeah,
you.
stir up moment. Like
Oh
I'm
no!
walking, and he just happens to jump in my path. And I'm walking in the street, and he just comes out of the woods, and it's kind of like it scared me, and I scared it. So it's like how we respond to that. So it became I guess, a battle of the fittest. Where
Wow!
it showed me how dominant it could be. By actually coming at me with no fear. It was
Right,
trying to get at me. And this wildcat is pretty
I,
long.
right along that line. I mean, it wasn't a wildcat; it was a possum. I remember the first time I met Ernie. We were camping with Joe, and man, I kept hearing this little noise, and I was getting up to, I think, throw away my plate because we had made some pork loins, and As I'm walking to the trash, I see this big old thing coming at me, and it was a big old possum. Now the thing is, he looks at me, I look at him at the same time. The possum goes ah, and I go ah. I threw my plate, everything was flying. You don't expect these kind of things when you're out there, and people don't know that when you're out in the wilderness in the forest, you're not alone. There's a lot of animals. There's a lot of things going around you. Just because you don't see them, it doesn't mean they're not there.
There's a lot of critters out there. I've ran when I was in the army. We would pull guard, and I ran into this giant
Thank you for your service.
rat snake. Oh, you're welcome, brother. A giant rat snake. As I was pulling guard, like we crossed paths the same way, but it was daytime. And the big old snake's looking at me. I'm looking at it, and we just went the opposite way. Like I don't got time to mess with it, so it just went the opposite way.
Nice. I used to be in the Marine Corps myself.
Well, thank you for your service, brother.
Likewise, likewise. So we were having a show the other day, and you made a comment about your neighbor having a. I thought it was completely interesting. An encounter with a Bigfoot. Would you mind talking to us about that?
Yes, brother. There was a neighbor that they had moved into the park, and it was a husband. I knew both of them, and he was in the military, and she was his spouse. You know, I was ex-military, and he had gone overseas, and he told me if I could watch out over, if anything happens, just to keep an eye out for his wife. I said no problem. So one evening she calls me. It's like around 10:30 at night. Is that she had problems seeing at nighttime, so she always needed help to walk her animals when they had to go to use the restroom.
Right.
So I tell her, well, just let me know whenever you need to do it, and I'll help you.
Uh-huh.
So there was one evening that she called me, and she sounded scared, and she said that there was something out there that was making this growling sound, and that she said when her dog went outside, that her dog went right back inside the house scared, and she was trying to figure out what was making it was a growling sound and a banging sound at the same time. So, I was on the phone and I could hear like something growling. I could hear something banging over the phone. It just sounded real loud. And then next thing she said, "Oh my God, it threw a log at me." So I took a run in over there near
Oh
the
wow.
park, and I'm looking. I take my flashlight and I'm looking. Go inside her house, and I see the dog in there. And then she said, "Okay." She was crying, I guess, when she was scared. So I went outside to look to see about this log that got thrown to her mobile home, and I found the log in the wall. It made a hole through the wall, where they launched it, and it went through the wall.
Wow.
So I thought it was somebody playing a prank on her. So I grabbed the light and I went towards the wood line because she pointed to the tree where she heard the growl and the banging. So I
Right.
was with a flashlight trying to see if there was something there, but I couldn't. I couldn't really smell nothing, and I really couldn't see nothing. But I could see the damage it did to the mobile home.
Wow.
And ever since then, it's like she got scared of taking her dog outside, but she lived right by the wood line where I had my encounter with this dogman-like creatures.
That was gonna be my second question. I want to get back to the initial story, but what was your first experience the moment that you realized that Bigfoot was real?
Well, the first time I would see Bigfoots like on TV and in the library, where they talk about Bigfoot.
Right.
And this I don't know if you remember the show. There's this big show called $6 Million Man, where they had Under the Giant.
Oh
They talked about
yes,
Bigfoot.
absolutely.
So I was I didn't know what a Bigfoot was. I was just a fan, like Under the Giant. So when they dressed him up as this monster, I was like a fan. But the first time I ever had an encounter with a Bigfoot, it was when I was 16 years old. We had a old 1956 uh, Chevy, and my mom had passed away when I was 15. Well,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. My
and so I
condolences.
was feeling kind of sad, right? So I got in the truck and I said, okay, I'm gonna go visit her, at the cemetery. So I started driving around the dirt road because where the cemetery was out in the, you could go through the main road or through a dirt road. So I just decided to go through the dirt road. So I was
Okay.
going down the dirt road, and as I was traveling down the dirt road, it was dark. I live. This is in South Texas, near this small town called Raymondville, Texas, where this happened. So I'm going down the dirt road and I see the ranch. There's a ranch there and it's got lights. So as I don't I turn there and I'm going down the road uh, towards this ranch. Uh, this is what happened. What happened is as I'm driving, I'm going 40 miles an hour, right? So as I'm going 40 miles an hour, I'm looking at the poles, because there's poles in the dirt road. There's poles of where the light goes, right? The
Right.
lines, power lines. So I'm going 40 miles hours on my speedometer, but notice that my truck is not going forward. So I don't know what's going on, and I go 45 and it's still not moving forward. And when
What?
I look to the rear mirror, I don't see the lights of the ranch. I just see something dark, dark through the rear view mirror.
Oh my
So
lord.
next thing you know, it's like it drops the rear end of the truck, and when it drops, and I'm going 45, because I'm hitting the gas, I almost run off the road and almost hit the pole. So I don't know what's going on. So I got scared and I got control of the truck and I passed the cemetery and went straight home. I was like, I didn't know what I was dealing with. So when I got home, I was telling my brothers and my cousins what had happened. They're like, "Oh, it's just your imagination." So when they went out there outside to look at the truck, they found out that they called me outside and said, "Hey, we want to show you something." They found the tailgate was ripped off and it was hanging. So whatever picked it up, picked up from the back from the rear end, it had to be something fast and powerful to be able to do that. Now the only thing I could see was something big and massive in the back of the truck, and oh, there was like a stench of a beastly smell also in the back of the truck where I guess he had grabbed it. And that evening, it's like they're like, well, maybe it was just something coincidental or something. So my cousin wanted me to take him to the store. So as I took him to the store, I parked not at the store but in another road uh, near their store. So I was waiting for him there. He said, "I'll wait for you right here." So I'm waiting for him, and you could see something coming down the road, and he looked pretty big and massive. And when my cousin got to the vehicle, he seen it, and he was moving pretty fast. And he's like, "What the hell is that?" It was huge. So we get in the truck and we go back home. So the only thing I know is what happened that evening is like, I'll never forget that. I remember how pale I was. Um, but before that, I had that incident happened with a truck because I used to be in track, so I used to run down the dirt roads during the day and at nighttime. But there was one afternoon where I was running down the same path because my town there's a lot of agriculture, so you got the town. There's a lot of dirt roads and a lot of fields. So I was running down that same road one afternoon, and I was going full speed. The next thing you know, as I'm running, I just feel something hit me in the face, ah, in the chest, face, and chest. It hit me so hard that it knocked me back. So as I go like this and I'm looking, the only thing I could see and smell was shit. You know, it was
Wow.
literally shit that hit me in the chest and in the face. So the first thing I did is look up to see if there was anything in the air, like a airplane or something flying. But
Mm-hmm.
it was too much manure or whatever it was, the splat or whatever you want to call it. It was all over my shirt and my face. So I'm looking, and the only thing that was to my right was a some woods where it was private property, and I was looking to see if I could see any movement of whatever threw that to me. It hit me. So I'm looking and I'm not seeing the movement. So I towards uh ran towards the cemetery, and I got some water from the faucet there, and I cleaned up my face from the crap that got thrown at me.
Right.
And I took off my shirt and I left my shirt there and washed myself up, and I ran back into town. And that was one of the last times that I ever jog out on the dirt roads. So from then on, I will either do my running at the track or within the city limits. I stopped going out the city limits after that. Uh,
Wow.
so I don't know what it was that hit me. All I know there was crap all over me, on my face and on my chest. So I don't know where it came from. All I know, I got hit by it. So no, and I was telling this story to some individuals that are dealing with Bigfoot. They said that it sounds like a Bigfoot, that I might have had an encounter with a Bigfoot that might have done that to me. And when you said they were talking about how when you're running and your hormones are at a high level, that maybe it see me as a threat, and that's why it challenged me and did that to me. I'm
Right.
just glad that he threw manure at me to let me know, hey, this is my property. Instead of coming at me and trying to attack me, it was something out there in that nature. But this came out of nowhere, and till this day, I don't know where it came from. When you want answers, I haven't gone back to the location ever since that happened. When all this happened, I graduated and I joined the military, and I left my hometown. I really haven't gone back to my hometown to go explore that location where this happened to me when I was 17.
Wow. Those are very, very interesting accounts, and by talking to you and looking at you, I can tell that you were marked by these experiences.
Yeah, in Spanish, we call them. I mean, when you look through the rear mirror and you see a dark shadow, we call them bulto negros. But
Botonegros.
bulto negros, ¿verdad? That's what they call them, bulto negros. Que when people say, mira un bulto, the dark
Oh yeah,
shadow,
yeah, yeah. I speak Spanish, so yeah, I
yeah,
know.
a dark being,
Uh huh.
So I seen a bulto negro. We used to see a dark shadow like that around the house all the time, and he had like red eyes. It scared my sister a couple of times where she was getting dressed and she seen the because our house is on pillars, right? So it was looking down at her from the top of the window, and she could see the red
Oh
eyes
my God, I would have died.
looking in the house. So she got scared. And there's other people like my cousins that came to spend the night, and other people that spend the night there that they remember seeing this 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 dark being or dark shadow, bultonado with the red eyes that was lurking around our home. So whether it was so one of the things that we will always find is dead cats. We would find dead cats, literally
Dead cats.
dead cats,
Wow.
where they will hang them. They will hang the cats on our fence, and the insides, the guts were hanging off the cats. So something was like marking our territory. Matter of fact, I have my site. It's called Spiritual Encrypted Encounters. I went there to Google to the locations that I remember where I experienced something. So I googled my address, my old address. My dad still lives there, but I really don't have a relationship with him.
Right.
But I googled it. So as I'm looking at the house, well, you can see the house, you can see the pole and the shadow of a pole. Well, right there, but in between the pole and the shadow, you could see a figure of something. It looks pretty tall, like a bulto negro, but there's no tree or nothing else to be able to cast that shadow. So if you get the chance, you can view it there. I just posted it today. I posted it because it seemed kind of interesting to me how this dark shadow is there, but there's nothing to cast a shadow. Which would be considered a bulto negro.
Right.
Yes, I had another experience when I was young with my grandfather because we had chicken coops, right?
Okay.
So I was like 5 years old, and it was raining. We heard he got in the eggs from one of the chicken coops, and the bigger chicken coop, it was like a cabin. And my grandfather said that the chickens were clucking, that the taquaches, the possums were in there, right?
Hmm.
So he grabbed a stick. He was already an older man. He was like already 75. So he went in there real slow. He goes into the cabin, and I could hear him. He started screaming, like something was attacking him. So I grabbed a stick, and I went into the cabin. And as soon as I walk into the cabin, the first thing I see, I'm thinking I'm going to see the possum attacking my grandfather. My grandfather is being attacked by this shadow figure, right? Which is the Bulto Negro. He had the red eyes, and he was elevated off the ground in the cabin. And he was getting scratches out of his body out of nowhere, you know. So I'm looking at this. I'm 5 years old. I'm looking at this happening.
Wow.
So next thing you know, the shadow with the red eyes looks at me, drops my grandfather, and he comes at me. But when he comes at me, he goes from a dark shadow to like smoke, you know. So he's coming to me in full speed, like dark smoke,
Like a mist.
like a mist, but in smoke, like smoke, like
Yeah.
you know, when you burn
Yeah,
hot
yeah,
fire,
yeah.
the black smoke. Well, that kind of black smoke was coming at me. So I'm standing there by the doorway, and I've always felt the presence of angelic beings around me when I was small. So he's just coming straight at me. He takes a detour and he breaks the window, makes like a little hole in the window next to me, in front of me, and he goes out the window. So by the time the smoke goes out the window, I could hear my grandmother and some of my uncles, "What's going on? What's going on?" And I'm telling them, Buto Negro, you know. So I was like 5 years old, so I'm saying dark shadow, you know, and they go in there and they bring him out. He's all cut up where he's, you know, I mean, he's got some big gashes all over his body, back, in the front, and
Wow.
the face. And my grandmother asked him, well, she's saying something about a Muerto Negro. He said, no, no. And he just looked down, you know, like he wasn't like embarrassed. And he said, no, no, Muerto Negro. He said it was a tacuache, but the scratches he had wasn't positive scratches. They were massive, man.
Right.
They were like big, so which I believe he had to go to the doctor to get stitches. That's how bad the scratches were on his
Wow.
body. There wasn't scratches like you see like on the paranormal where they just have it looks like they got scratched, but it's not like I mean he was literally bleeding where they had to get the gauzes and the pads and you know clean the wounds off of him. Uh, so you know when they talk about Bigfoot and what I witnessed, you know, like in the dirt road and when I got hit by something, you know, it makes me wonder what kind of capabilities you know the Bigfoot is something of the supernatural, right? That they could, you know, people say that it can go from dimension or from this realm to another dimension. No, I call them realms, right? You get the heaven realm, the hell realm that it's got those capabilities. You know, I've heard so many stories, you know, from the Bigfoots, the dogmans, where people say they try to shoot them or they shoot at them, but they don't hit nothing. You know, they don't leave no trace, no evidence of anything. In which, to me, you know, when they don't make no. I was in the military, and I was a tanker, and our weapons were synchronized. So if I lays at a target, and our target when we bore sight our tank, everything's like I could shoot a piece of grass and cut it in half. The bullet, I could look at a piece of grass and shoot it with a bullet and cut it in half. So if we have the kind of capability, and some of these people that are hunters, you know, they have the scopes and they said they see them and they shoot them, but there's nothing there. You know, that's telling me that it's got to be something that's here amongst us, like in spirit, that has the capability to manifest or appear and disappear. I call it manifestation, right? They can manifest in that way. But what was weird about that is that how can it pick up the back of the truck? You know, that it
Right.
lifted the back of the truck. You know, those are questions that makes me wonder, or that he could pick up a log and throw it to the because I seen the hole on the mobile home. You know, so it's got to be something that it's got to be here in some kind of way real, right? Because it's got to pick up a log to throw it. You know, you and then you got stories where there's paranormals where they says there's like unclean spirits that have the ability to lift stuff and throw it. You know, you see it in the tapes where they can move a chair, they can toss a table around, or at times pick up a person and throw them away, like throw them to the. Which I witnessed something like that in the area where I had my encounter with this woman had the encounter. One day I was walking down the main highway. It was daytime. It was like around 5 o'clock, and there was this African American walking on the right side of the road. And as I'm walking behind him, I'm walking with a cane because you know I had problems with my left leg. So I'm walking and I'm seeing him, and next thing you know, I see this guy. He gets elevated up in the air, like 4 to 5 feet. I say 5 to 6 feet. He was pretty high, and he gets dropped on the ground. And I'm looking like, no, it's just my imagination, right? So as he's trying to get up, he gets picked up again and slammed on the ground. He got picked up and slammed 3 times.
What?
So by the time I get there, I'm looking at him. He's by the near the bridge where the rail starting of the bridge. So I'm looking at him and I say, "Hey brother, are you all right? Are you okay?" So I'm on this side of the road and he's on this side of the highway, right? On the other side, it's just a regular highway. So I'm looking, he's not responding to me. So I walk halfway on the bridge and I said, "Man, I need to help this guy, you know." So I cross the bridge. So I'm standing in the middle of the bridge and I could still see him over there on the laying down on the rail. And I said, "Hey brother, do you need help?" So he picks up his head real slowly after about 5 minutes, you know, because he's in a, I guess in a daze, you know. So he gets up and he starts coming to me and he starts stumbling and he's walking and stumbling and he stands right in front of me and I said, "Are you okay, brother? Do you need help? Do you want me to call the ambulance or do you need help?" He looks at me and his eyes look a little bit reddish, you know, and he looks at me and he says, "Next time I see you, I'm gonna kill you." That's what he tells me, you know.
What?
So as I'm looking at him, I said to myself, maybe when he hit himself on the head, is maybe that's what he's just saying. So I said, "Come on, brother, let me help you across the bridge." And he keeps on repeating himself. He keeps on saying, "Next time I see you, I'm gonna kill you." And
Mm-mm.
he keeps on saying it. So the first thing, I'm a spiritual person. The first thing I said,
You
well,
think he
maybe,
was possessed?
yeah, yeah, that's what I was gonna fix him to say. That the first thing that I thought maybe he was semi-possessed or possessed from whatever picked him up in there and dropped him.
Wow.
So I concentrated on maintaining my love foundation and ignoring the threats. Come on, brother, let me help you. Let me help you. Come on, brother. So he starts walking with me. I wasn't trying to touch him. I was just trying to walk, and he was stumbling. He followed me all the way to this little store that's right across the bridge. There was a Dollar Tree, you know. So I go in there and I said, "Wait for me right here by the register." So I went to go grab him a water, so because I really didn't know. I mean, I know what I witnessed, but I was trying to give him something to drink, because maybe I don't know what was going on with him. So as he's by the register, he asked the cashier what's her name, and she said what her name was, and this is what he tells her: "Next time I see you, I'm gonna kill you."
Hmm.
And she gets scared. And I said, "Well, no, 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 no." I was like, "I
Wow.
found him on the bridge. He hit his head. You know what he's saying." So I prayed over the water and I said, "For God to bless the water." So I got on the water, I opened it up, and he said, "Here, drink some of this." And he drank some of the water. Next thing you know, when he drinks the water, he's back to normal. Like, I mean, I don't know what normal is for him, but he started talking to everybody like if
Like his
nothing,
old self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like himself. And he said, hey, thanks for the water. I really appreciate it. And but he don't remember anything that happened from the bridge to there. He don't know how he got there. And I asked him, "Hey, uh, where are you coming from?" He said, "Well, I was just trying to walk home to go get a fuel can because I ran out of gas." But he don't remember what happened to him on the bridge, how he got to the store.
Wow.
Hmm.
He don't remember nothing. So that's some of the activity that I've witnessed. Like for people that go out into the woods and all that. That's why I was asking some of those questions. What do you do to protect yourself? Because I
Right.
know there's other forces out there that can manifest into things to make you believe what you're seeing is real, what you're hearing is real, and once you give it that power, right? And one of the things he likes is fear for people to be afraid.
Right.
So if it makes a noise, right, it makes a noise, a growling sound. I forgot EVPs where I used to get growlings right beside me, or they'd be growling around me, the footsteps running around me. At one time, it got so bad that I was actually getting spiritually attacked, where I was getting hit in the back, and I was flying 4 or 5 feet and tumbling, and I would get up with my guards up, and there'll be nothing there. So at least,
We're, now, I'm
it,
sorry to interrupt you, but
yes,
is this while you're doing investigations in or just in a regular basis anywhere?
it was randomly. It was just randomly after. Because what happened to me after the woman left. There was a flood that came, and the woman that had the mobile home, the flood came from the creek, and it washed their mobile home into the woods.
Oh wow.
So they relocated. Their insurance got them another home, but they relocated somewhere else because They made after that happened, they made that area a flood zone. So after that, I started experiencing things. Like I had an event where my son was playing on the swings and on the slide, and next thing you know, me and my friend I was showing her the creek, and because it was a beautiful area. There's on the it's a mobile home park, but the park is big, and there's two sides to the park. There's a swimming pool. So I live in that area, and I was trying to show her the area, how beautiful it was. And next thing you know, I cannot hear my son playing at the park no more at the swings, and we were right there. I mean, the creek is only like 4 or 5 feet in, so by the time we go look, we can't find them. I can't find my son. We can't find her daughter. So we search all over the park on both sides of the park. We will go back home. We go into the room to see if they're playing video games, and we can't find them. So about 45 minutes already passed by. It's getting dark. So they start calling the cops, and I go back to the park area by the swing sets and the slide, and I'm calling their names. My throat's hurting because I was yelling for them, and nobody was responding. So as I'm looking, I just see the top of my son's hair behind a bush in the woods because he was a tall boy. He was like 5 years old at that time. So I ran in there, ran in past the bush, and they were standing by a tree. Both of them were, and it's kind of like they were side by side, like in a trance-like state. And I'm asking them, "Hey, what are y'all doing in here?" They're not responding to me, and I'm talking to them. They're not saying nothing to me. Like I said, they're like in a trance-like state. And then all of a sudden, both of them say this at the same time. The man in black called us. That's what they said. The man in black called us. So
Wow.
then I yelled for my sister and my friend, and I told them to take him. So they took him out of the woods. So I'm paramilitary. So I went looking, man. I went looking for either a man dressed in black, right, or an African American. I went looking all throughout the woods. I went to the creek. I went underneath the bridge. I went to the highway, but I didn't find nobody. Uh, so like the following day, I told my friend to bring the camcorder because I wanted to catch if this person is there. I wanted to catch him on video, so we can let the police know that we caught him on video. So they could try to capture him. The first thing I was thinking maybe a possible pedophile. So uh, we go in there the following day with a camcorder, and I said, "I'll go in front of you. You come you record from behind me, and if you catch anything, let me know." So we're walking into the path where we passed the location where I found them. So I'm walking in front of, and she's behind me with a camcorder. Next thing you know, she says, "Oh my God, I think I caught something." So when I look back, she's running out of the path. She's running out of the path. So it's like I'm looking to see if I can see any kind of movement, but I don't see nothing. So I turn around. By the time I get home, she's already in her car and she takes off. She lived like in the next town. So she takes off home like she's scared, I'm like, man, I'm trying to figure out what she caught on the tape. So I got my son and went to her house, and I'm gonna go look at the footage. And as I was looking at the footage, you could see where she says, "Oh my God, I think I caught something." When she said that, you could see there's something looking through the woods, through the trees. It's looking at us. It's got like yellowish eyes, and it looks like the silhouette of a person. Looks like a person, and it's got an amulet around his neck, like a golden amulet. It's
Oh my
looking at us.
God.
It's looking at us, right? And then in the video, you can see it go straight down into Mother Nature itself. It goes straight into the ground.
It's funny you mentioned that. On my last show, I was mentioning that when I was younger, me and my grandma, we're from Puerto Rico.
Yes,
So my grandma used to live in a mountain, and we used to visit her on the weekends. Whenever we got out of church, we would go and visit her. Now my grandfather had a lot of fruit trees everywhere. So me and my brother would go and we would love to pick them. We would cup our shirts and put as
yes.
many fruits as we could, and we would keep picking. And one of those days, a figure, something calls my brother's name. Now we know there's nobody else over there but us, and it calls my brother's name. So my brother somehow goes into this kind of weird trance where he's just going, walking to whatever is calling him. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? So I'm walking behind him and I'm talking to him. I'm trying to make sense of bro, where are you going? Like, this is a stranger. Let's not go over there. And when we finally saw the being, whatever it was covered in a dark smoke, but it had that chain that you were referring to, like a golden disc, and it was all gold. And it extended its hand out, and it had red glowing eyes.
Yes.
And me and my brother, I grabbed my brother, and we started running, and we could hear it right behind us, but every time I turned, it was not there was nothing there. But in one of those, we both turned around because we felt like it was gonna grab us. And when we turned around, we fell down a precipice on the side of the mountain. We were all now, mind you, we're in church clothes,
Yes.
so we're rolling down this hill. We get to the bottom and we run back up, and we get to our grandma's house. Then we got beat by our grandma because we were dirty. But the experience was
No,
something,
I
you know.
believe you, brother. I'll tell you what, I believe you 100% because whatever's there in that area, it could mimic voices and it could actually take form of people that you know. Look, my friend had moved to, when you say it was calling your brother's boy, calling your brother. I had barely could finish talking to my friend, the one that was there that day with a camcorder. She had gotten married and moved to Pennsylvania, so she had got into Pennsylvania, and she told me that she had made it over there safely. I said, okay, it was nice talking to you. Boom. So I was at the house. I went to the park, and I was sitting on the park bench. Right, I'm sitting on the park bench, and next thing you know, I hear her voice calling me into the creek. It's her voice calling me by my name, and I'm looking, and I said, Belle. I said, Belle. And then it said, "Yes, it's me, Belle. Come here." It's,
Oh
it's calling
no.
me into the creek. And it's like, wait a moment, I just finished talking to her over the phone. So whatever it is has the capability to read your mind. You see, so is mimicking her voice calling me to go to her into the creek. So I'm sitting there, and then I could hear like some rocks being thrown. So I said, like, nah, it's just probably my imagination. I just finished talking to her over the phone. And then he decides to mimic one of her daughter's voices. And it
Oh
said
my
her
lord.
name, and he's calling me to go into the creek. So when that happened, it's kind
Hello,
of
Ernie.
that was my cue to say, you know what, it's time for me to go. I got up from the park bench and I went back home. It's like, I don't got time for this, you know. But it has the capability to mimic voices. If it can mimic a voice, I'm more than sure it can manifest to the form of the people it's mimicking the voice.
Right, right. Back in Puerto Rico, we call that the Hat Man.
Yes,
We call him the Hat Man, and he. I know that the first time I had my encounter with him, I was probably like 5 or 6 years old, and my grandma told me to do. So you see, back home when you live in the mountains, we don't have trash cans. So,
yes,
when you're cooking, my grandma used to take the skin out of the chicken, and they would put it in this, in a little plastic plate, and then you would walk to the side of the mountain and you would throw it into, the animals will eat it. Well, when I did that and I threw it out, I looked down, and mind you, it's a precipice because we live in a mountain. And I looked down, and down at the bottom, there's the Hat Man. He had a white hat with a black something around the hat, whatever it's called, and then like a blue guayabera. You know what a guayabera is? Those
yes,
shirts.
yes. I know what a way of it is. It's those
Well,
those shirts, nice shirts.
yeah, and it was a blue one. And I remember he was looking down, and I'm looking from top, right? He was looking like this, and once I threw it, he went like that, and all I could see was the red glowing eyes. And I went like this because I thought he was gonna do something. And next thing you know, he is running up the hill, bro.
Yeah,
There's no way you could have run up there. Like,
yeah,
there's no way. And I panicked, so I ran back to the house, and my aunt thought that it was funny to lock the door and laugh at me.
yes,
So I pissed myself. And
yes.
my grandma runs out and beats the living crap out of my aunt and says, "Why do you do that if you know what's out there?" Now, she never, ever told me anything else about it.
Yeah, the first time I had encounter with the Hat Man, Dark Man, whatever you want to call him, was the day that my mom. What my mom got murdered through domestic violence.
Oh wow.
So that day they were they were looking for her, and the sheriffs, everybody was looking for her. So I prayed to God, and I told God, I pray to God, have faith, and to take me to her to where she's at, because I believe we're all spiritually connected. So I got in my 10 speed, and I'm driving down this dirt road, and it's dark. It's around 10:30 at night, and the only thing I could see is the caliche, which is just the dirt, the white dirt,
Hmm.
because everything else around me is pitch black. So I'm going down the dirt road, and I get to a highway. There was a light pole, so I take a ride, and I'm gonna get near this bridge, and I stop on the bridge. So I get off my bike, and I'm walking on the bridge because there's a light. And as I'm crossing this bridge, I hear a moaning sound, right? Somebody moaning like in pain. So I'm going across the bridge, and there's a dirt road. There's a pole with a light. So as I hear somebody in pain, right, moaning, I started walking towards the moan down the dirt road. Next thing you know, this hat man, what you call the hat man or dark shadow man, he stands up. He's all black. He's wearing what seems to be like some kind of cape, like a magician would wear. He's got the top hat, the top hat, and like you said, the only thing I could see was the red eyes looking at me. So he's looking at me.
Mm,
I'm
those
looking at
those
it,
red eyes.
and we're just making contact. And I was like, I'm not budging, and he's not budging. So next thing you know, what scared me was when he came at me. It was off the ground. It was elevated off
Right,
the
right.
ground.
See, that's what
So
I tell people.
Hmm.
so it was elevated off the ground, and he was floating towards me. So I got on the bike. I was only 15, so I was like 2 miles away from town. So I'm going down this road that's got holes, and my 10 speed is hitting the holes, and I'm looking, and he's coming at me. He's gliding off. So as I'm looking and looking, but when I look again, then it's not the Hat Man no more. What I see is a hellhound. I see the dark red eyes. I guess it has the capabilities to change form. So I'm seeing this dark black dog with red eyes,
Shapeshifter.
a shape like a shapeshifter, and he's got the pointy tail. So around my town, since it's agriculture, is an irrigation system underneath the ground. So as soon as I crossed the irrigation system, I stopped and turned around. The hellhound there is on the other side of the water of the irrigation system and is looking at me because the irrigation system goes underneath the road. So he's not crossing that irrigation system. So he's looking at me and I'm looking at it. He's got the red eyes, the ponytail, and he just turns around and he takes a long leap. Like I'm talking about a long leap. It's not even running like a dog. It takes long leaps, like 3 or 4 long leaps, and he covers a lot of ground real fast. So I got turned around and I went back to my house. And by the time I got there, my aunts were there, and they told us, "Hey, come on," and we went with them. We were there at their house, and I didn't tell them what had happened to me. And then I was outside, and I could feel this cold air coming. Some cold water hit me, where it started raining and there was thundering. When that happened, I felt that my mom's was already not. She wasn't amongst the living no more. And then we got a phone call to the somebody to ID, the founder, and I was one of the ones that ID'd, through a picture. But yeah, it was weird because the following day, when somebody passes away, especially in that manner, you take a priest to bless the area. So I went to go talk to the priest. I said, "Can you take me to the location where they found my mom?" So he took me down the road where I had traveled, and he stopped on the little irrigation system. It was a priest, and he crossed that, and we went down the road that had all the holes, and he stopped by the bridge, and he said, "I know it's around here somewhere." And it's, "Oh yes," and he crossed right over the street and went into the little dirt road, and where she was, I was like maybe I would say 10 feet away from her, but whatever was there didn't allow me to go near her.
Do
That's
you
why
think it was trying to protect you from looking at that gruesome scene,
I don't know
or
what it was.
maybe it was just trying to I don't know. To me, it sounds like it was just
Well, I had prayed. I had prayed to to God to take me to where she was at, and one of the things of the prayer was if you take me to where she's at, I will never doubt you. I will always believe in you, and he took me there. The spiritual prayer took me to where she was. It's just there was some interference, whatever it was that interfered in me being there.
whatever
And
needed you there.
and,
Yeah.
and another thing that happened too, that when you go through something like that, and how everything happened so fast. I remember another part where, like, maybe not even half a mile, quarter mile, there was a ranch right there, and the lights of the ranch were flickering, just turning on and off and on, off and on, and you could hear the people laughing. You know, so it was all kinds of activity that happened that day. I remember, I don't reminisce in it, but I remember everything that happened. But I believe there is a spiritual warfare between the good and the evil. We just have to be prepared at all times, because we don't know what we're dealing with. I hear stories where, well, man, what I've experienced, when I don't know if you heard what a dogman, but to me, a dogman or cryptid, it's basically like dogman, Bigfoot. I had an encounter. I have an episode that came out on This Was a Haunted. It's called on season 3, episode 2. It just came out a couple of months ago, and I talk about my story, what happened to me in Elms Grove, where there was one evening where my sister woke me up. It was like 3 in the morning, and she said, "Hey, there's somebody needs your help. Somebody needs help because there's a woman crying, yelling for help." So I go outside, and there's a woman yelling for help. And you could hear her yelling like she's in pain. So I grab my bat, and it's like, "Oh, you want to go? Come with me." I told my sister, and she's, "No, I'm going to stay here with the kids." So I grab the bat and I go walking, and I'm just following the noise where the yell, cry for help, where it's coming from. So I go walk to the park. I pass a slide and I pass a swing set, and the crying from help is coming from inside the woods. So I have no flashlight or nothing. So paramilitary, you try to surprise the
Element of surprise. Yes.
element of surprise the enemy. So I go in there, and I'm going like ninja mode, like real. I'm trying to make too much noise,
Stealthy.
stealth mode, real slow. So I'm going in there, I'm making a noise, and it's the cry for help is getting closer. So I have the bat, and I'm fixing to swing the bat because I walk, I turn a bend, and I'm getting close to I can hear it louder, So I'm ready to swing the bat because I'm waiting for is to see if somebody's over her, for the woman that's crying for help. So as I'm fixing to swing the bat, the crying for help stops. So I'm here in the woods.
Oh my god.
By then it's probably like 3:10, 3:15, and I'm looking. I'm scanning the area to see if I hear another cry for help or if I see a movement of any kind of sort. So I'm looking everywhere, and I'm not seeing anything. So I'm looking, and around that time frame, it's already cold. The leaves are falling off the trees, so I could see through the trees to there was like a place where there's a comedy club, but it was empty. There was nobody there. It was empty. So I'm looking. I don't see nobody yelling or nothing. So I turn back, and I'm looking, and then next thing you know, I feel something. My instinct just all my hair stand up.
Right.
You know that feeling.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I wasn't looking at nothing. So when I get that feeling, I already knew that there was something there, spiritual, right? So as I turn around and I look to the right side, maybe like 4 or 5 feet away from me, it was there looking at me. I could see white eyes because it's remind you I have no flashlight in my hand. So
Brother, you are brave.
so
Yeah.
I had no
At least a
flashlight. So the only thing I
flashlight.
could see is the silhouette of it. It's massive. I say it has to be like 10 foot tall, man. Yeah, I mean, it's looking down at me, and I'm
Mm-mm.
looking at it. It's looking down at me, and I could see the eyes. But then I could see two other ones on that right flank. We'll say a military storm on the right flank of the path or the right side of the path. There's two others. They're like in 10-meter intervals, and they're looking at me. Then when I look to the
Like
left
a
of the
pack of
path,
them.
there's three more.
Oh
Oh, heck no.
There's
shit!
one
No
looking at
flashlight
me.
still.
One looking at me. There's one towards further into the woods, and one way in the background. And the reason I can see him is because of the white glowing eyes, right?
Mm-mm.
So I'm looking at the one that's close to me, and it's massive. And I was like, well, I got an option. Is I can run 10 feet behind me, jump into the creek. But then I said, this big one's going to come right after me, catch me in the woods. I said, I can go to the left and run towards the bridge up onto the highway, but the ones away on the right flank, on the left flank, the way they were facing, they would have chased me that way. And that way was a little bit further into the woods because that was like about 30, 40 feet, maybe 40, yeah, 40 feet. I had to run or 50 feet. So it's like, what should I do? And I had the bat. So should I swing at this one that's here close to me? And it's like, you know what? I just dropped the bat. You know, I was outnumbered 6-1. You know, so I'm there looking at them, and then I was like, you know what? I need to not fear them. I need to take my mind somewhere else. So uh, I was my inner peace is going into prayer, right? So it's like I need to ignore them, not give them power, because I know they're looking at me. They were keeping their eyes off of me. So I started praying the Our Father, you know, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be the name. And I'm praying it. I prayed numerous times before I take the first step because the only other option for me out of there was to go straight down the same path I walked in, and they had it flanked. So as I finally felt safe within myself because I took myself somewhere spiritually, I took the first step and I just kept on walking, and I wasn't looking to the sides. I would just kept it's kind of like I made my own little tunnel vision like this. So I'm just praying to Our Father and I'm looking at them, and I could see them turning the head as it's looking at
Following
me
you as you're passing by.
as I'm passing by. Yes, as I'm
Oh my god!
it's turning his head, looking at me. And what was weird about that they're all turning their heads, looking at me like they're following me. You know, I could see them through my parallel vision as they're turning their head, especially the one that was close. Uh, Next thing you know, what was weird, you know how tell you to talk telepathically. This is what they said. As I was saying the Our Father, because I kept on repeating the Our Father, because I was trying to. That brings peace to me, you know. This is what they said: the Holy One, the Holy One. They kept on saying the Holy One, the Holy One, the Holy One. As I was passing them by, all of them were saying the Holy One
Yee.
because I believe they were acknowledging the
The
Our
prayer.
Father, the
Yeah.
prayer. So as I turned the bend, I could feel one behind me, but I didn't turn around because I could sense it. So I just kept on walking. I didn't turn back. I know, you know, I had to take my mind somewhere else, like ignore them. You know, I'm pretty good at ignoring people sometimes. You know, I mean, I could get my wife in here. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, I had to ignore him, man. That's the only way. And I never turned back. I kept on
That's
praying, and
great.
I passed the swing set. I kept on going through the park. You know, it's still like a good 100 meters to go to the house, and I kept on praying and praying. You know, it reminded me of the story about when I don't know. All I know is I didn't turn back. You know, I made it all the way home without turning back. And when I got there, my sister was waiting on the porch, and she's like, "Why did it take you so long? I was worried about you." And I was just pale from the face. You
If she
know,
only knew.
she looked at me and she's like, "What? Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I just didn't say nothing, and I just went like this, and I went straight into the room. I looked at my son. I didn't even want to touch my son. I seen him. I was just glad to see him, you know. And I went straight into the shower, opened up the water, and I said, "God, please bless this water," because when you run into against something in that evil, right? You feel that, and how do you call it? They call it el don. You feel that negative presence still upon you, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I prayed to Our Father, and I did prayed for the water to be blessed, to cleanse me from any negative attachments. And I stayed in the shower for a little bit till I came out of it, and I went to sleep. And for a while there, I
Did
was
you
kind of
feel
scared.
drained when you went
Yeah,
to
yeah,
bed?
yeah. I feel drained. I didn't want to go to the woods, but in my mind, it's like, well, I need to find out what lured me into the woods. You know, I took my nephew with me. I didn't want to go by myself, after what happened to me. It was still daylight.
I wouldn't either. I don't blame you.
I wanted to see if there was traces, like for example, a purse, an ID, lipstick, or something, because it was a woman yelling for help.
Right.
So I went in there with my nephew. We're searching everywhere, the area, looking for like a purse or some items. We couldn't find nothing. And my nephew was just taking random pictures. And if you looked at my site, Spiritual Cryptid Encounters, the picture that's there, that's from the woods, and you can see something there standing in the woods looking at us. And I went to the spot to measure the height of where it's standing looking at us, and he said it was like 10 foot to 11 foot tall, where it was standing.
And this is a dog man.
Dog man, or I don't know, some kind of beast.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's
Like
what
a
I know, and it's staring right at us. Um, when you talk about mimicking, it's like so many strange events happen after that. I had the encounter with one that looked reddish, and then one that was all black, which I believe might have been the alpha male that was standing by me, which because I could only see a dark silhouette.
Right.
It just happened like a year later, because I stopped going to the woods or cutting down that path. I said, man, if I hear another woman yelling for help out of there, I'm not going. She's on her own. But I know I probably would have gone again if I were to hear yelling for help. But a year passed by, and me and my nephew, or I got like a little cold right now, so uh, me and my nephew were outside. He's talking about joining the army. I had a picnic table in front of the mobile home, and we're talking, and he's seen something peeking over my neighbor's SUV. So I seen it duck down. I'm like, man, what was that? So I'll go around the SUV, and we see something running through her yard, and it went out the gate. And so we're looking, and this is within the mobile home part.
Right.
So as I'm looking, I see something crawling, low crawling on the ground. I'm looking, is that a dog? Then it went like a medium crawl. I said, man, that's not a dog. Is that a deer? Man, that's not a deer. It's too big to be a deer. Next thing you know, it stood up, and it's on twos, and it starts running down the street. So as we're running after it, we're parallel to it, and I seen it took a left and went through the mobile homes. So as it went to the left underneath the tree, there was where it took a left. There was underneath the tree. We see something, a dark figure, tall, and he looked at us. He turned around and started running down the street, and that's the one we got a real good, a close look at, which I believe was an alpha male. If it was a dogman, a werewolf. That's what it looked like, a werewolf-like creature to me. And he was the way it looked. It was built. It was all muscular, nothing but muscle. It was massive from the legs. When he was running, he was using just its legs to run, and he kept his hands up here, like this. He wasn't moving the hands. It was just he said his
like
hands
a
up
dog.
here.
When a dog goes on.
Yeah, and it was just using the power of its legs, but it was more like when it would take a step, it would bounce real
like a
long
dog.
stride and bounce real long stride.
I have a question.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing all these experiences, but I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, man, that's another experience, and that's another experience.
Yes.
Do you think is because of the area that you were in or grew up that is just a high activity area, or is it like, do you ever think, man, why am I having all these experiences? Like, have you ever thought about that? Like,
Yes.
One is like, okay, that's scary, but like multiple experiences.
Yeah. Well, sometimes in life, not everybody gets that. How should I say, the silver spoon? Some of us get the short end of the stick, in which we're open up to the spiritual realm at a young age, and that's what happened to me. My What happened to me is my brother, when he was small, he was sick. He was older than me, and they couldn't find a cure for him in the States. This is like in the 1970s, early 1970s. So they knew I don't know if you know what a curandera is.
Yes.
But they knew a curandera in Mexico, in Reynosa, Mexico.
I lived in Mexicali for 14 years.
So there was a curandera there, and she said that she could cure him. So we went over there, and the deal was that if she cured him, that I had to stay with her for 6 months. So went there, and I seen what she did. She had an adobe hut, The ground was out of dirt, and the room that she did the works, she had a hole with a fire, and she had like a little altar, and she grabbed my brother, and she had this egg, and she was doing something with the egg, and when she cracked the egg, there was this little black chick that came out of the egg, and he had a broken. My brother had like a limp, and in his hand was kind of, he kept it like this because he was always hallucinating. You know, he had high fevers, so he's always seeing snakes and spiders and all kinds of stuff, scorpions because of the high
Wow.
fevers. So she cured him. You know, she cured him, and they left, but I stayed with her. So I got to see the spiritual works that she would do when she would heal people. I would see where,
Now,
when you talk
do,
about,
do you think that you're some people like I don't know if you ever saw that interview with Mr. Robert Riggy. Do you think that you are more in tuned, more force sensitive to this spiritual realm? Because not everybody is, let me tell you. And for the people that are in tune with it, it's, if you put it in a balance, it's almost like living in a hell because you're seeing a lot of things and
yes,
you got to psych yourself, prepare yourself. Do you turn it off? Do you turn it on? Do you Are you able to cope with it? Does it drive you insane at times?
yes, I'm in tune with it. I guess you could say it's a daily thing for me. You know, because it happened for since I was a kid. You know,
Right.
when I help with the curandera, I could see her where she would heal the people, and there was times where you could see a dark shadow leave the person where they had the maldad, the
Hmm.
wrongdoing to them, where the
Right.
dark unclean spirit would leave their body out of the tent because of the fire. You could see the shadow leaving the tent, and at times there were some people that were so, should I say, demonized, that they had like three or four leave their body, where they were afflicting them pain, or wherever they had their ailments. They would leave the body, but the people that she would heal, they would become better. But yes, I witnessed that. Uh, she would do all kinds of spiritual works where you could see her spirit going through the people's body. She would pull out like barbed wire, pieces of glass,
Wow.
scorpions, snakes out of people's body. Where I don't know if y'all know about this, but back there, like in the 70s, 60s, or maybe all throughout time, there's always been the spiritual battles, between good and evil, in which you got the good people that fight the good side, and you got the bad people, which is the brujos, the brujas,
Yeah.
and that's where it becomes a spiritual battle. So I got to witness that at a young age, and then I witnessed a lot of other things after that, in which, like you said, it's I got started seeing all these things. It's like I was never the same after that. Witnessing that, it's like it's always been with me to. But that's how I do spiritual works, and I help out people spiritually. I've gone to people's homes and cleans their homes, or they're going through something, and if I see something there and within their homes, I send it away, and I tell them what they need to do to keep it away. Sometimes we ourselves create that opening. It could be on the path that we're on, or like for example, when you go in the woods, like what happened to me when I seen those creatures manifest themselves that way. Uh, I started thinking because I could hear them break the bushes, so I said, well, it's got to be something real, right? And then I seen one where I was sitting on the park bench and it broke the branch and it landed beside me and it's looking at me. It's like 8 feet away and it goes into the creek and you can see the branches moving. So when you see that kind of activity, you say, well, it's got to be something real, right?
Right.
But after I started believing that it was a cryptid known as the dog man or that it was something real, that's when the fun began. Because after that, what happened is I started getting spiritually attacked. He wasn't attacking me in the form of a dog man or a Bigfoot or any cryptid. He was attacking me in a physical form, invisibly, where I could hear footsteps and then boom, I go flying 4 or 5 feet. Let's get up. There's nobody around me. I get hit again, so I'm getting hit from different directions.
Wow.
And I'm fighting spiritually. I'm saying the Our Father, and I'm waiting for it to appear to take form of something, so at least I could say I tie bound and rebuke in the name of Jesus Christ, right?
Right.
But it's not doing that; it's hiding from me. Uh, so it became a spiritual battle. So What happened is it was coming out to my house in this in the form of shadow figures. It would come and bang on the walls, and uh, I was the only one living there. It was my sister and her children, and they were witnessing all these things, all these events happening too. They had the capability of opening the sliding door, opening the doors, and coming inside the house. And when you send them away and you go out there fighting a spiritual, they'll be gliding, going to the park. I don't know if you ever sense the energy of trees, but I'll tell you what, be careful around trees because these shadow figures that I will see, they will teleport or go into the tree, like literally go into the tree. So I'm looking and I don't see nothing around the tree, and next thing you know, they come out of the tree into another tree. So they're manifesting themselves to go from tree to tree. You know
No.
how when I hear the stories of people say, "Well, I seen the Bigfoot,"
Thank
next
you.
thing you know, it just it's gone.
Disappeared. Yeah.
Well, what if it's in the tree? If it's in the tree, it can go anywhere in the part of the tree. It can go on top of the tree. It
Right.
go anywhere if it's in spirit form. So that's when I started. It became to the theory of, well, first it showed me it was something real, and I started believing it. So that was the opening. Now it's attacking me spiritually. So I said, you know what? I need to take authority over it and not believing it's something real. So fight spiritually. So I said, what am I doing wrong? So I said, you know what? I have some unforgiveness because I was trying to close any door that opened any opening I had that's allowing this. So I can't believe in it no more that it's something real, especially if it's attacking me. It's invisible and it's not. I can't even see it, and it's hitting me. So I say, okay, I'm going to acknowledge it as something spiritual. So as I acknowledge it as something spiritual, then I said, I'm going to ask for forgiveness, forgive anybody in my past that I have any kind of hatred or anger. And I did that, you know, and truthfully, I did that. That day that I did that, I feel different.
Mm-hmm.
They manifested one more time. They came to me, but in the form of the shadow figures. And they show me an imagery of somewhere else where I believe it's Sinai. And you can see these people being tortured where their flesh is coming off and on. They show me these images and they're trying to tell me their names, but I don't want to know their names,
Yeah.
what they can do. And then they bring me, I'm back in my room because I never left my room, but they were just showing me picture of where they're from. And they said, we want you to do something. And they said they wanted me to take my life. That's what they told me. So as they told me that, I already knew God is a forgiving God. So, and I didn't respond to them. They said, if you don't, then we're going to come after your, of course, my son. And they said that. And I said, first of all, my son is protected by the Heavenly Father. And second of all, I take authority over you in Jesus' name. I tie, bind, and rebuke you in Jesus' name. And when I took authority over him, because I already knew then that it wasn't something that was really in the physical form, that it was something spiritual. When I did that, they went out my room, and that was the last time I had an encounter there before I left because I left. I moved out of there. I didn't want to go through any more spiritual battles. It's like it was a daily thing. So sometimes there was times where I could hear little kids running around my house.
Oh my lord, I would have lost my
Like around
shit.
3 in the morning, and I'm like, man, who's got this kids running around? And they're laughing. You hear them running around, and I go outside, and I'm praying the Our Father. After fighting spiritually for so long, I start praying the Our Father automatic. As soon as I step outside, I do the sign of the cross, and I got my little salt. I got some holy water in a little bottle just in case, because they would come at me in shadow form. Imagine a
Wow.
shadow figure coming at you. So I gotta have the
Some
spiritual.
sort of protection, yeah.
Or if they go to the trees, into the trees, we'll see what tree they go. So I get the holy water and I put a cross on there, so they won't be able to go on the tree. So
Well,
this this
listen,
happened. This happened there in Killeen, Texas, in Elms Grove. I had, like I said, I have a came out on the show. They edited a lot of exactly what happened there. But man, it's so many things that are in play that after what I experienced, because you got shapeshifters. I know there are Central Texas, there's a lot of native land, and I could hear drum beats coming out of there. And I have some stories about some shapeshifters too. But after going through so much, so many things, it's like they all come at you at once. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you could see, for example, a shadow figure. You could see an apparition. You could see a red orb. You could see
Well, I'd like to. Have you ever been up here to our area? I live up in Willis, Texas,
Willis, Texas. No, I never been up in that
by
area.
the Sam Houston National Park.
I've heard of Sam Houston National Park, but I've never been that area. But I know if I were to go, I'll be able to sense. There. It's kind of like, for some
I
reason, like
I'd like to take you to my side where I had my encounter. It was a very aggressive encounter. Um, I'm not gonna go into it. I've already been into it a lot of times, and even Will
it,
Jevney's interviewed me about it. But
it's dealing with what you encountered, what you witnessed was something like the Bigfoot.
right, we were attacked by over six Bigfoot at the same time,
Yes.
and it was a very scary thing because I didn't know anything about a Bigfoot. I don't know what a Bigfoot was. I'm from
Yeah.
Puerto Rico. I mean, the scariest thing we got is sharks.
Yeah.
So
In
coming
Puerto,
in and finding out that way that a Bigfoot is real, it changes your perception of everything. Being a former Marine, I mean, you know, we're, you were in the army. I
yeah.
mean, we're prepared for everything, but you're not prepared to have an encounter of that kind. I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
there's no
it's
preparation for
it's
that.
it's pretty shocking to see a 9 foot
Mhm.
beast that looks similar to a human being and could rip you apart in a matter of seconds if
The
it
the
felt like it.
natives the natives who talk to them about the Bigfoot, they call them Sasquatch, and they got other native names for them. Uh, but the a lot of natives, which shamans, they were considering to be like a demon, that they had the ability to shapeshift or to manifest into a different form and to go into another dimension at will. That they had that ability. So I know that's where you get the shapeshifter and you get the skinwalkers and you get the wendigos. Uh, but I know that in Central Texas, where I live at, there's a lot of used to be native land. Fort Hood is right beside Killeen. Uh, when I was in the Army on Fort Hood, they put me to work for S3, which is TALK Center of Operations, where we would drive the PC on top of the mountains and we set up the talks up there.
Hmm.
There was times where I'll be changing the fuel of the generators, and somebody be throwing rocks at me, and I'm
Mm.
looking and I'm thinking it's my NCO messing with me. This
Right.
is late at night. So there was times it would be raining and the rocks being thrown at me. So I'll go up there, hey, why are you messing with me? It's like, what are you talking about? I'm in here. He was a higher
Mm.
ranking sergeant. And I thought he was messing with me, but it's like every time I would go change the generator at this where we set up the talk, somebody be throwing rocks at me. At that time, like I really didn't know too much about Bigfoot. And then there was one day where I had the night shift and it was day shift, and we're gonna they called a jumping talk where we disassemble everything. So I was gonna go to the tent to get some of the people to help me tear down the talk, and you could hear the sergeant major was complaining, and he was saying that somebody took a crap by the tent, right? So they were like, "Hey, come here, you." And I was only like a
Because you were the
POC.
biggest guy.
I was the lowest rank. Come here, you got to pick up the shit. So I go over there, and I grab a shovel. It's like, man, they put me in this detail. I'm thinking I'm gonna go, per human crap. It's not that big. When I want to go look at it, it was a massive pile of crap, man, by the tit. I was like, wait a little bit. There's no way one person can do this. I've seen cow shit, bullshit, horse shit. There was none. It was bigger than that. So I don't know where it came from, but it was right by the tent. Like they said, they marked their territory, right? A
Yeah,
certain
that's
way.
true.
But you see, at that time, I really didn't know too much about Bigfoot. Uh, and then when I worked the range, I was a night range one time, and we were detailed to work the range just to radio watch for the weekend. And we had got a call from one of the ranges. I was in Clamber Creek, and it was it was Blackwell, not Blackwell, it was pilot, not pilot, It was another range. I can't remember the name, on top of it on my head, but we had a stress call saying that he was being attacked by something, you know.
Hmm.
So we all get in the Humvees and we go to it's called Trapnell Range. So we're going towards the range area, and we get there. And when we got off, I seen there was an outdoor latrine, portable potty, and we're like, "Hey, what's up? You all right?" And we're looking for him. We can't find him, so we walk all the way up to the top, and he's got the door barricaded. And it's like, "Hey, open up." The higher rank sergeant's all mad and like, "Hey, open this, take this stuff out of the way." He's cussing, and he takes it off, and he's like, "What's the matter?" And he starts smoking cigarette. He's just smoking a cigarette after cigarette, like he
Chain
literally like
smoking.
sucking the hell out of the cigarette. Like what the hell's the matter with the guy? You could tell he was scared.
Hmm.
And he like, calm down, calm down. And he was a sergeant. The hired sergeant was like NCO was telling him to calm down. So he calmed down. He said, "Well, I was going downstairs to go use the restroom, and I seen him." I said, "What did you see?" And he said, "Bigfoot." He said, "Bigfoot." Said he was standing right there in the path. He see me, and he come at me. So I ran upstairs. He said he ran upstairs. He started barricading the door. That he started banging on the tower. That the tower was moving.
Oh shoot!
That he was moving. So
Oh,
we were looking at each other, and it's like, you know what? You're going back to the rear. So he was so scared that we sent him back to the rear because he wasn't able to do the job. He was
Yeah,
so
yeah,
freaking
he was
scared. He's
compromised. Yeah.
petrified. So, but we did smell like a beastly smell when we got there. I thought he was coming from the latrine, from the outdoor latrine or the restroom, but you could smell a beastly smell there still in the air. You know,
Wow.
but not that
Well,
we literally seen something, but it happened to him. I got him on my friends list, uh, and I asked him if he ever wants. He retired. He got to retire, but he never responded to me. I asked him if he wants to talk about that time that he seen that. He said he don't want to talk about it. And then I have another NCO that he. Yeah.
hopefully he will talk about it because talking about this is very helpful in a very personal level. Because when I had my encounter, I was just exploding to try to tell somebody without being called crazy. But at this point, I don't care anymore because I've been out there so many times. I'm out there
Yeah.
investigating almost every weekend. Every time I'm off, I'm in the forest.
Yes,
So you
that's
know,
how I was, brother. When I was trying to find answers to what I was going through, I was out there. I'll go out there at nighttime. I would spiritually ground, and I was trying to find answers. What was going on?
well,
Sometimes I
you're
go
you're
during
more
the
than
day.
welcome to come join me whenever you want,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Just we can get in touch, and I'll take you out here. I'll take you to my side, and we'll just do some investigations. I would really love to hear more of your stories. And by
Oh,
the
I
way,
have I have a lot of stories.
we're
Yeah,
a little short on time tonight,
yeah.
but we would love to have you back and have another go at it because I mean I just love your stories.
I
I
was trying to
mean,
find. I was
it's
trying to have some
amazing.
people to come to the Elms Grove area, uh, so they can witness what I witnessed. But man, I'm afraid to bring people to the location because I want nothing to happen to nobody. Because if it's something spiritual and if somebody got an opening, I've taken people there that wanted to go because they said they could do this and this spiritually, but they got attacked. So it's like they got their energy drained. So I really don't know. I'm just glad I moved out of there. I was the only reason I stayed there is because I was buying my home. Once I paid it off, I got out of there.
oh, I
Didn't
bet.
want to deal with it, and I still have some kind of activity that happens once in a while. Like she said, it follows you, but not to the extreme or the extent that was happening in Elms Grove. Everything stopped. Even though it's once you deal with it,
Yeah.
spiritually your senses will let you know when there's
Well,
something there, when something's not there.
now is the perfect time for you to plug yourself. What you got going on?
Me, I just I got my group Spiritual Encrypted Encounters. So I got the original group was Positive Spiritualist, but Spiritual Encrypted Encounters where I do most of the work. And I've had an open invitation to a lot of people from the cryptic community, but I wanted to let them know that that those things that when they talk about Bigfoot, dogmans, that I've seen them there, and I've seen the Bigfoots there on the other side of the bridge. but it's like it's got whatever it is, it shapeshift into this beings, and all I know is when I fought it spiritually and I rebuked it in Jesus' name, that it tend to slow down or stop, it would take off. So I guess I would say if you do encounter something like that, and is there, if you tie bind and rebuke in Jesus' name and it disappears in thin air, then you know that it's not of the flesh, but it's of the spirit. Put that to the test. That goes for anybody. There's they'll wind up in a situation like that.
And
I've heard stories where people tell me that they've done that and whatever's there goes away. So
one final question:
yes,
what's your advice for people that are barely starting to go through this spiritual road, this challenge of seeing entities, perceiving things? What's your advice to the people that are barely starting
yes.
to go into this arena? Like, what's your advice for them?
My advice is this. This is something I learned when I was going through what I was going through. Is always try to maintain a love foundation. How hard is that? Imagine to maintain a love foundation always, no matter what the situation is. We've all been tested. And the reason I say that is to maintain a love foundation because the only way something in that nature can try to attack you spiritually is through anger, right? Fear and vengeance. It can only find an opening through in that manner. So you really have to maintain a love foundation in order to be able to overcome those scenarios. Not be afraid to give it power by believing of what you're seeing it, because that's what it wants you to do. Like imagine this, like when I would hear the little girl playing outside and the little boy playing outside my house, like man, that's a little boy, little girl. I'm believing it's a little boy, little girl. So actually, I'm giving that entity, right, or whatever is out there power because
The
I'm
power,
believing in
yeah.
it. Or if you're seeing a Bigfoot or you're seeing a dog man and you believe in this what you're seeing, then in some kind of way you're giving it power, and it's kind of like I always give this example, and I'm more sure everybody's gone through this. When you hear the tapping sound at
Oh
your
yeah.
window, right, and the next thing you know, following day goes by, you hear a knocking sound, right? Another day goes by, then you hear a banging sound, boom, boom, boom. Well, what we're supposed to do, as soon as you hear the tapping sound, you say, "I take authority over you. You're not welcome here," because you don't have to go to the knocking sound. It doesn't have to go to the pounding sound. You have the authority to say, "Hey, this is my home. This, my home. You're not welcome here." But
It's
that's what
funny you
happens.
may, it's funny you mentioned that happened to us not long ago.
Yes,
Remember that?
Mm.
My daughter is 18 years old now,
yes,
and she kept telling me she recently started coming to visit me, and the first night she spent it, she's like, "Hey, Dad, somebody's knocking on my window." And I went outside. There was nobody. I have a ton of guns. I'm running around the house like a crazy man. And man, there's nobody out here. Then he started knocking on my window.
yeah.
Remember?
That one time.
No, that's what it is, brother. And you know what? So that's why I told you, if you protect yourself, like me, when I would go to the woods, put the sign of the cross, say a little prayer. When I come out of the woods, I'll do the sign of the cross, say a little prayer for nothing to follow me, because sometimes those things follow you. They follow you to your home,
Yeah, yeah.
so they'll be around your home. So you literally have to cleanse your home. Place a heavenly crosses on the doorways, on the windows. So you're here, like I said, you have the authority to say, "Hey, you're not welcome here. Vámonos, vete. You're not
Yeah.
welcome here." Take
Well,
that power away from that before he creates himself to be stronger.
right.
Right?
Well, Abe, thank you very much for joining us. I'm
No,
really,
thank you
really
all for
glad that
having
I
me
had the
on.
chance to
Thank you
talk to
all.
you. And
Whenever y'all want to talk about something else, let me know. Or if
oh,
y'all want to come live
absolutely.
with me on my side, I like going live on spiritual encrypted encounters. You can share your story, or but when you told me about the knocking, that's something till this day that still happens, man. The
Oh
knocking
yeah.
sound,
Mhm.
all the time.
So
Goes from my
everybody
tattoo.
else, go check this man out. Check his channel out. You better do that, or I will be the one knocking on your windows. Thank you much, Abe. I love your stories. I hope we can have a second round and a second go at this. We have so much more to talk about, and I'm pretty sure that the people are gonna be wanting more. So, man, thank you.
Thank you all for having me, and God bless you all and your families, and I'll keep you all in prayer. From as a matter of fact, if there's any negative energies that are around your homes at this time, we tie, bind, and rebuke them in Jesus' name, and we call upon the heavenly angels to do a clean sweep of your household from any form of negativity. They shall pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is Valhalla Paranormal. Until Valhalla.
Sit down, strap up, and shut up. Enjoy the ride. We cannot guarantee your safety or your sanity. Enjoy this story. But remember, you'll never get to your destination.